Okay, it's with great pleasure that I introduce a real good friend of ours, a good friend professionally and personally, somebody who is very, very, very passionate about what we do. Okay, you've heard him this morning or this afternoon, his brief introduction, and everybody's talking about Carlos Lara. Carlos Lara. Well, this is the real deal here. Okay, he understands the importance of what we're doing. He understands the importance of free markets, free contracts with free individuals. Okay, and I asked him to speak tonight after dinner because I think what he's got is so important. I want you to sleep on it. Okay, because when we get together tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, it's going to be about production and case studies and things like that. So this is going to be something that's going to launch us into that tomorrow morning. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Carlos Lara.
Man is not a puppet. Man must adjust his actions if he wishes to succeed. Therefore, human action and social cooperation have laws. And these laws must be studied as a science. Consequently, you see that Austrian economics is much, much more than economic theory. But rather it's the science of every kind of human action. Choosing determines all decisions. The person who only wishes, the person that only hopes, does not interfere actively with the course of events. Nor is that person able to shape his own destiny. Acting man chooses, determines, and tries to reach an end. Now, this is a science that should be embraced by all of society, especially the Christian, because it gives us two powerful, harmonious messages to spread to the world. Now, here's my main message for this evening. Mises's predictions are coming true. This society, our society, is sweeping toward destruction. In order to change the course of events, we must do all that we can to change the economic thinking of this country. And we must do it soon. Now, to this end, as you can see, the Mises Institute is leading the way. The efforts these past 28 years that Mises has accomplished should be applauded. And we, in our own interest, should make a decision to join their efforts. As we have already heard from Jack, the Mises Institute is an incredible organization, screening an amazing amount of historical, philosophical, and economic information, and is distributing it to the world. They have taken an ingenious evolutionary approach in the spreading of the Austrian message by reaching out to high school students and undergrads, and thereby penetrating colleges and universities. But that's not all. They've also reached out to businesses, and especially the entrepreneur. Their most obvious goal is to raise up future leaders who are well informed in Austrian economics. And the good news is that they are bearing fruit. These individuals are the future voice of America. And it's a strong, growing voice that is now getting heard. Austrian economics is repeatedly in the news. It can no longer be ignored. Bob's challenge to debate Dr. Paul Krugman. This is Obama's Keynesian Nobel Prize winning economist. It's just one outstanding example of what I mean. And from what I understand of Bob's debating skills, I think Krugman's in trouble. And are you aware that Bob is actually debating an economist for the Federal Reserve first thing in the morning in Atlanta? And then he turns around, and him and Jeff will be in Knoxville, Tennessee, at a seminar addressing high school students. These are the human products that the Mises Institute has produced and is continuing to produce. And we must not forget Congressman Ron Paul, who is probably the most visible and publicly known Austrian. Initially, he was driven into politics by Nixon's closing of the gold window. As you know, Paul has gained a very strong influence in Washington, and not by serving special interest, but by educating others in Austrian economics. As we all know, he was a candidate for the presidency in this last election. And because of the crisis in 2008, his popularity skyrocketed because he was the only candidate that understood what had happened and why. This year, he is the new chairman of the Monetary Policy Subcommittee that oversees the Federal Reserve. Now, that is a tremendous victory for all Austrians. Ending the Fed has suddenly become a real possibility. Now, this is very exciting news. But there's more, there's much, much more, because there is no greater idea that has come along in the last decade than the idea that was provided by Austrian Nelson Nash and his infinite banking concept. Mises once said that the individuals with the ability to change the world had three distinct qualities. One was common sense. Two, sincere conviction. And three, courage. The courage to tell the truth without fear. Nelson Nash fits that description perfectly. Nelson has shown what no one else prior to him has been able to see, that a very traditional, centuries-old financial instrument can allow Americans to personally secede from this corrupt monetary regime. Amidst this debt-ridden society of ours, Nelson's outstanding contribution comes just at the nick of time. As you will know, he's already influenced thousands of people, and his idea is destined to spread to the entire country simply because it really works. Austrians have always believed that if enough people can learn the basic principles of Austrian economics, and in particular the Mises-Hyatt theory of the business cycle, that then the public would force government to change its destructive ways. The problem has always been that it would take a long time to accomplish this. But Nelson's idea convinced Bob and me that the practice of IBC could not only benefit Americans immediately, but could also help accelerate the goal of all Austrians. The discovery that IBC actually mutes inflationary credit expansion completely transformed us. The more Americans that practice IBC, the more it starves the beast. Cash flows and deposits move into the insurance companies and away from the commercial banks. Furthermore, the practice of IBC does not contribute to the national problem. Borrowing from policies to finance one's needs does not trigger fractional reserve banking and the increase of the money supply, which is so disastrous to the purchasing power. This is extremely good news, and it needs to be broadcast everywhere. For this reason, Bob and I wrote our book. And then we launched the Night of Clarity in Nashville, Tennessee this past July. If you were there, you know we were serious about spreading this message. The desire to bring the Austrian community and the followers of IBC together has become a passion because we believe that this powerful combination can change history. Now, besides the combination of Austrian economics and IBC, there is also the sound money solution, which is an integral part of this new idea. The sound money solution first ties the dollar back to gold. Then it privatizes the institutions of money and banking. And finally, it eliminates the Federal Reserve itself. Many Austrians, especially Murray Rothbard and of course Ron Paul, have supported the sound money solution for decades, even though they knew that the probability of it ever being accepted was near impossible. But the most astonishing discovery that Bob and I made was that the practice of IBC was actually the implementation of step 2 of the sound money solution. And it could be done immediately and by anyone. As of this date, most Austrians have no idea this is possible. We need to change that. IBC practitioners need to learn how to communicate this very important piece of the IBC message, not only to Austrians, but to all Americans. The idea that we can actually do this without government's permission is awesome. Yet the IBC strategy is perfectly legal, and it's peaceful. It's peaceful. We don't need to have angry mobs running through the streets and storming Washington. We don't even have to fire a single shot. Rather than revolution, this strategy represents secession from the existing order. And secession, you see, is a strategy that Austrians already believe in. They are just simply unaware that it can be accomplished through the practice of IBC. And so because of this, we can expect more and more individuals, once they are told about it, to accept and adopt this strategy. By the way, I should mention right here that the spreading of the IBC message is not volunteer work. It's certainly not patriotism. It's not even religious. Like the invisible hand over the market, it naturally spreads because there is a built-in incentive. IBC agents are capitalist, and the personal self-interest is very much at work. IBC agents are paid well for their professional efforts, and they should be. But their prospects, their fellow Americans, are equally rewarded. And because of that, they in turn continue to spread the message to others. It's truly a win-win process. In the end, all of society benefits, and we build a unified front that can turn the direction of this country around. The goal then is to accelerate the teaching of Austrian economics, the sound money solution, and IBC. And as a very first step, we should combine our efforts with the Mises Institute in reaching the masses as fast as we can. This year, Bob and I are doubling our personal efforts. After meeting with David and receiving Nelson's approval, we have begun a new, exciting approach to reach this goal. Today, in effect, you have witnessed what we intend to do at the IBC think tank meetings in February. In turn, Nelson and David will join us, IBC practitioners, and fellow Austrians in Nashville, Tennessee in July. So bottom line is that we need to reach out to all Americans with this message, and especially those individuals who talk to people about their money. This means reaching out to more economists, more attorneys, more CPAs. In fact, all financial professionals, the entire 750,000 of them that are out there in this country. If we accomplish that, and they in turn spread the message to others, then we're there. We're there. We will reach the 10%. It's up to us to keep this ball rolling. In closing, let me remind you of this. It's the masses that change the course of history, but its initial movement must start with the individual. The practice of IBC epitomizes that initial movement. Mises argued that all governments, no matter how oppressive, ultimately rest on public opinion. So building the 10% as fast as we can will get this job done. Let's do it and have faith that God will see us through to the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.